You know, the government was attacked on so many fronts today, but on one of them I do wonder if it was fair, and I'll ask someone who will know. Defence Minister Richard Marles has spent an astonishing $3.6 million on RAAF special flights, including to go watch the Matildas in Sydney. Now, what he has done wrong is, you know, not just take it off the flight manifest, declare where these flights are all going. But anyway, the opposition went for him today.
Can the Minister confirm whether he has taken his golf clubs with him on any Defence VIP special purpose aircraft flights, and if so, on how many flights?
It is, Mr Speaker, just a little revealing of what hurts them the most about the fact that they are now in opposition. In their darkened rooms, the only conversation they're having is about how they get back on the planes.
The answer you didn't hear is that, yes, Richard Marles does seem to have taken his golf clubs on a flight, but that was to play golf with other defence ministers after an ASEAN meeting in Cambodia. Joining me to talk about this and far more serious stuff is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan, the Australian. Greg, I think it's a bit unfair. Golf clubs is making connections. What's he supposed to do, sit in his hotel room while everyone else plays golf?
Yeah, Andrew, look, Richard Marles is a good guy, and I mean, he's a very hard-working guy. There's no doubt about it. He's not in it for the soft pillows and the cushy travel. Having said that, I think they should all get out of the chairman's lounge and they should all make VIP flights absolutely transparent, absolutely public. If there's nothing wrong with it, and I don't think there is anything wrong with it most of the time.
Security, they say, Greg, security.
Well, publish it after the fact. You don't have to publish it in advance, let the bad guys know. But I think the public hates to see a politician go to the Matildas on a VIP jet. And you know, Prince William, I'm sure he sort of oversells this. He goes on holidays on British domestic airlines, which are some of the worst airlines in the history of the world. They're like human torture. I honestly think our people can put up...
Thank you for that one.
I think our people can put up with, you know, going on regular airlines unless there is a tremendous reason to take a VIP craft.
I mean, taking the RAAF to go and see the Matildas, I mean, spare me. That really...
It's not the crime against the Holy Spirit, but it's a bit silly. It's a bit silly.
What do we... let's go to something, I think, with more profound impact by a long shot. Donald Trump, right? What we're seeing there is amazing. You've had Democrat prosecutors from the party of Donald Trump's big rival, Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, charge him with no fewer than over 4 events, including everything from stealing an election to falsifying records regarding a hush payment to a former stripper or a stripper. And he just seems to get stronger. The latest poll shows him 60% support from Republicans in a crowded field of Republican rivals. Is way ahead in the battle to become the Republican nominee for next year's election. What do you make of that?
Well, it is extraordinary, Andrew. Not only that, but you're absolutely right, but even more astonishing, he is either level or ahead of Joe Biden. So the Democrats, I think all these prosecutions are an abusive process. I think Trump's behaviour in all these 4 matters was pretty despicable, but I don't think it was criminal. And I think you should deal with a politician at the ballot box, not by criminalising political matters. But I do think the American people, or a huge chunk of them, 50 or 60%, have worked out that these criminal prosecutions are an abusive process. So the Republicans are rallying around their guy. I think the Democrats wanted that to happen because they want Trump to be the nominee. But then they thought even an unpopular Joe Biden will easily beat Trump because he's unpopular with independent voters. But it seems to me that Biden himself is so unpopular. And Trump, even though he doesn't appeal to me a bit, you know, I wouldn't want him in the house when my grandchildren were there. There's nothing about him that I like, except this one thing. He fights the party's enemies. And I think American culture now is very polarised, and they want leaders who fight their enemies. And
including
Trump,
America's enemies.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trump has some juice now with the voters, there's no doubt. I mean, I think there's a big danger that he won't fight, you know, that he'll stop giving aid to Ukraine and so on. But nonetheless, it's undeniable. Trump's juice with a big chunk of voters, not just Republicans, is a real factor.
See, Greg, I also wonder, I totally go along with you. I probably don't have such a visceral dislike of Donald Trump, but, you know, I was hoping someone else would come through. But the point is, this abusive process, to me, is an election issue. It's not just, oh, you can't do that to my guy. It is an election issue. America cannot be allowed to go through that banana republic. You know, what next? You're going to fire someone out of the sky like Prigozhin in Russia? Where does this end? You cannot have that happen. This cannot be rewarded. And I just wonder whether it might not just be catnip for Republican supporters, but also for independent voters thinking, this is not the America I want.
Well, I agree with that, Andrew, absolutely. And combine that with the now incontrovertible evidence about the sleaze of the Biden family. And a lot of Americans are feeling that the Bidens and the Democrats have had a lend of them. But also the abusive process, I think, is gravely serious. And so I would now say that Democrats are equally as guilty as Donald Trump in debasing the American political system. Both sides have done it. And I think it's gravely damaging to America. All these prosecutions are by Democrat prosecutors or by a special prosecutor appointed by Joe Biden. So you've got partisan legal systems now. You know, you've got Democrats will prosecute Republicans, and in due course, Republicans will prosecute Democrats.
Of course. This is the vicious cycle that they've embarked on. Greg, just one bit of good news. We'll leave Donald Trump in Ukraine for another time because that is a very interesting topic. Is he actually going to follow through with the hints that he'll cut Ukraine loose? God hope not. But plucky little Australian company, well, actually quite well connected when you look at their board, called SIPAC, I think that's how they want it pronounced, have given or sold through a donor 100 of these cardboard drones. They look like something your kid had put together, and they've turned out to be amazingly effective, credited with blowing up, for instance, a Russian plane. One reason, radar finds it hard to detect cardboard. It's incredible. What ingenuity.
It's fantastic, Andrew. And the Ukraine war is kind of revolutionising warfare because we're seeing that the small, the dispersed, the cheap can defeat the big, the heavy and the ugly. Now, wouldn't you think, Andrew, that if you and I can observe this, the Australian Defence Force would be able to? But do you know what? We still do not have one single armed drone in our Defence Force. We've just announced...
You're kidding me.
Not one. We must be the only country in the world that spends $50 billion a year on defence and doesn't have a single drone with a weapon. And we've just announced we're going to have the super-duper, most complicated in the history of the world, air combat battle management system when we have no assets to direct into combat, but we're going to be able to, but in fact it won't work, of course, like all these high-tech systems. And whereas what Ukraine is showing you is you need lots of missiles, lots of drones. This little cardboard drone can carry a weapon of 5 kilograms, and you can have 50 of them swarm a battleship all at once, or a destroyer or an aircraft carrier. And even with sophisticated air defences, you can't deal with 50 points of attack.
Mate, it's just, you know what I like about it? It's that old Australia that I love. You know, we could make anything out of barbed wire. That was, when we were young, that was the boast. Now we can make anything out of cardboard, including lethal killing machines. We're hopeless at building advanced rockets, but we can get you with cardboard. Greg Sheridan, thank you so much indeed for your time.